Everyone, we're back with another week of Find Your Film. This is covering the week of, by the way, Happy New Year, Happy 2022 to everybody out there in the, yes, very cool. What are you holding up, Eric Holmes, as far as your celebratory drink? What you got there?
This is something someone left.
Dos Equis. Dos Equis or Dos Equis? It's Dos Equis, Bruce. What do you think? Dos Equis? I say Dos Equis.
Equis, two war horses.
Two war horses. We mentioned horse in our last.
Dos Equis is French for horse dough.
Horse dough, Dos Equis. I haven't had. When's the last time you had a Dos Equis, Bruce Berkey? Happy New Year to you, buddy. When's the last time you had a? When? Do you remember?
Oh boy, it's been a while.
It's been about 10
not
years
a big
for me.
beer drinker. Yeah, not a big.
Were you
drinker
never a
at
beer
all,
drinker? You were never a beer guy. Never.
My favorite beer was from McMiniman's in the Seattle area called Terminator Stout.
Terminator Stout. That sounds very hearty, actually. Eric, you're the current beer drinker out of all of us. What's your beer of choice?
I go for quantity over quality every time.
I keep forgetting. So, for example, something like a Coors Light or a Blue Ribbon, that kind of stuff, you can down those things. I mean, that's fine with you, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. The only thing I won't touch is like Natty Ice. That's instant headache for me. So
okay.
But I don't really like the microbrews. I'll drink them.
Why don't you like microbrews? Aren't they classy? Isn't that a sort of?
But I'm
maybe?
not classy, so it wouldn't make sense for me. If you saw that SNL skit with Bill Burr for the Sam Adams, he's like, "Yeah, it's sweet and shit, but it'll get you fucked up." That's kind of. That's kind of where I'm at.
That is your MO. I'm total bouge. So my drink of choice eventually, if I ever get back to drinking again, would be a Stella d'Artois. Stella Artois. Have you ever had a Stella? Yeah, it's fancy. Have you ever had a fancy
Do you
Stella?
get that little knife to get the foam off the top of it, like they do in the ads? Is that what you
very,
do?
very good. That's what I do.
I'm gonna start drinking that. Anytime you can mix beer with instruments of war, I think I'm in.
Well, whenever you go to your local bar, Eric, and you drink a Stella Artois, just remember me. Hey, this is a toast to my fellow podcast partner, Greg Srizavati, that suburban boy with us drinking his round of Stellas. So again, I do miss Stellas. In fact, when I used to actually drink in my 20s and 30s, there used to be a guy who now is probably, when I was drinking back in my 20s and 30s, he was probably my age right now, like around 50, 51. And the one thing, whenever he'd order a Stella Artois, he'd say to our bartender, who's a great guy named Joey, he'd say, Joey, I'm going to top off the night with a date with Stella. And that was his way of being funny, having a date with Stella, meaning he wanted a round of Stella. I found that very, very corny. But now that I'm 50, yeah?
I want to get a beer like called Spartacus, where you got to pop top with a trebuchet. shoot the cap across the room.
That, again, Eric Holmes goes for the violence, which I kind of love because, he's a fan of action films and movies like One Shot, which, by the way, all of us are. But we're not talking about One Shot. We're not talking about Scott Adkins. By the way, we just finished recording an episode of Cinematics, which I believe you'll be able to listen to on Friday. This Friday, I will release this show first. But, Bruce, did you have a fun time doing the Cinematics? Are you okay with you and Eric popping in at the top of the month doing Cinematics with us? What do you think?
The question isn't, am I okay with it? The question is, are you out there okay with it?
Yes. Listeners, are you all right with this? With Bruce and Eric Holmes invading the cinematics sphere. Now, this is our sphere. This is our world. Find your film. Before we get to our movies, Bruce, you have an interesting intro as far as end of the year category stuff. Can you tell our listeners what to expect? Not with this episode, but with the episode for next week.
Oh, for next week, yes. So next week, at least part of the episode, we want to do some top of the year for 21 categories, but we're trying to do some weird categories. We've got it narrowed down to a few, but I think we'll probably also, if we hear some great suggestions from any listeners, we would entertain them, I do believe. Let's see, what are some of the ones that we came up with? I have them written right down here. Look at that.
Very, very good, yeah.
We have, here's a few for everybody. We will put a more official post out as the week progresses so everyone else can kind of chime in on this. Eric had came up with the Virginia Newcomb Award, which is to a newish actor that we wish or think should be in everything. I had the most what the fuck moment of the year. That's pretty open, so you can kind of decide what you want that to be.
Like,
had
can I
fa-
nominate a movie? I'm not. I'm not gonna get there. I'm not. No.
Yeah.
You know where, Eric? You know where I was gonna go with the most what the f movie? What was
have
my
a couple
stupid? So it was. Whatever. Don't look up. Let's go.
Favorite
Stupid-
non-human character of the year is one I came up with. Maybe would be fun. Strange trends. That was something Eric came up with. An example he
Oh.
would give would be movies about rowing as an example. I thought one that might be fun would be a movie that each of us thinks a rewatch might make us like better.
Oh, very, very good. I have a category. How about worst movie set in a bar that will make you want to start drinking?
That's for next year. That's for this year. That's not for 21. The other one that... Oh, yeah, this is a great one. And we'll leave it at this, and then we can put the official list up. But the one that Eric came up with I thought was really good, which was a movie that we liked or whatever, and we think that, like, say, Bruce must be high to have liked that movie.
Oh, okay, very good, very good. Yes.
And then the other one is like, well, of course, he's very right about that movie. So there could be a couple different versions of each of those. So that was really funny.
Okay, so those are some of the categories we'll be launching for next week for sort of a year-end list for Find Your Film. But right now, for this specific week, we have a couple of big movies to talk about. We also have one of Bruce's all-time favorite movies. I mean, not all-time, but one of his favorite movies from 2021 that Eric Holmes and I finally got to, which we're excited to talk about. But first, let us talk about a movie that's currently streaming on Netflix. It's set in, I believe, Bruce, you were saying it's set in Greece. It's called The Lost Daughter. Olivia Colman from so many great movies. We're thinking movies like The Father, The Favorite. She's a very wonderful, wonderful actress, okay, and just top of the game. She is vacationing in Greece. She's what she's a professor, right? Professor, literary, kind of a professor type.
Yeah, literary professor. I think she does lots of translations, I believe. Translations of literary works. Yeah.
Translate. Okay, and this movie is, I believe, directed by and penned by Maggie. I don't know if it's penned by Maggie Gyllenhaal. Let me look it up.
It's written and directed by her.
Very good.
Yeah, it's a written adaptation of a novel by her.
Okay, I believe it's Elena Ferrante or whatever. But the Lost Daughter, very interesting. So she's vacationing in Greece. She has a past regarding her two daughters. It's set in modern day, I guess in her time and Olivia Colman's time. Jessie Buckley, who we all know from, what are some movies that we know her from? Beast, and what else? Bruce Wild Rose, we know her from Wild Rose as well.
Wild Rose, I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Right, so many great movies. Okay, so she's in this playing the younger version of Olivia Colman's character. So we actually get to see her in the present day and back in the past when she is dealing with her soulmate and her two kids. So that is a premise. And also Dakota Johnson stars as in the present day as a woman who is pretty much stressed out, just taking care of her own daughter. And Dakota Johnson's character, she's part of a whole just throng of people who are well-to-do people vacationing in Greece, and their money and they're noisy people, and they're just vacationers and who are pretty much entitled. But that's really interesting. It's about their relationship with Olivia Colman's character as well. That is The Lost Daughter. There's a lot of mystery to it. It's interesting, but our Cinematics Facebook group member was Ken Cunningham. He was mentioning that he found it to be very off-putting, the character of Olivia Colman to be off-putting. It's a very unpleasant watch for The Lost Daughter. I'm wondering if it's an unpleasant watch, does it make it for a very interesting or maybe a bad viewing experience? Eric Holmes, I'd like to hear your thoughts first and foremost regarding The Lost Daughter. Again, now streaming on Netflix.
First of all, I kind of like this for the most part. It was I had that so Olivia Colman, you could tell that there was something going on with her daughters. As far as I could tell, they were not a part of her life, and how, whether or not they're gone or maybe something happened to them, I didn't know. But I figured there was some bit. This is a movie about bad parents. Her character either messed up and put her kids in danger, or maybe she just left her kids, or you don't know till like later on. And even then it seems kind of ambiguous what exactly happened. At least I didn't catch on what actually happened with them. But it's her character kind of lamenting about that. She sees Dakota Johnson's character and how she treats her daughter, and she sees herself in that, and she doesn't like it. And so she kind of tries to get in there sometimes, but doesn't want to overstep her bounds. This is a pretty good like kind of character study sort of thing. I don't think the ending stuck the landing, at least not for me. The ending got really confusing for me, but everything leading up to that was really good. Of course, Olivia Colman is great. Jeff Buckley is much better actor than he is a singer.
Very good.
Jeff Buckley is dead, yes.
Yeah, Jeff Buckley.
27 years young. That's got to be tough. I've been watching the Necrogoblicon interviews. And anyway, yeah, this is a pretty good movie. Probably not, for everyone, but this is, and it was written and directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal. And which is really impressive because had I not known that going in, that would not be something that would have immediately popped at me. I'm like, oh, who did this? It seems like maybe like a Jane Campion type movie, And so, yeah, good on Maggie Gyllenhaal for the ending. Didn't stick the landing for me, but as far as the rest of the movie goes, I thought she knocked it out of the park. And
what rating do you give this movie out of 5 stars?
This probably be like a 3.5, 4. Probably 4. This could have been like a 4.5. If the ending really drove it home and stuck the landing, I think this could have been like 4.5 star movie for me. As it is, probably 4 stars.
Good, that's a good one.
I did like Peter Sarsgaard. He's married to Maggie Gyllenhaal, and I appreciated that he had a sex scene with
Jeff Buckley.
Jesse I was trying not to say Jeff Buckley because I messed myself up already.
Buckley.
Come on, that's what you were thinking.
Look, Peter Sarsgaard, he's a good actor. He's not I don't think he's very bright. If I'm married and my wife says, no, go ahead, it's cool, you can do this sex scene, I'm like, you're not going to get me with those trick questions.
Very good. Very
but
good.
yeah, this is a good movie. It's a real bummer for sure, but that's kind of part and parcel with a movie like this. So if you're in for that, go for it. And it's on Netflix, so that's the cool thing about movies on streaming is you can get in there, do half hour, and if you're not feeling it, just watch Being the Ricardos again.
Okay. Oh yeah, definitely watch Being the Ricardos. We love that. Well, Bruce does not. I mean, he kind of you didn't like the Ricardos that much at all, but I did. Did you like the Ricardos?
Yeah.
Yeah. You were.
It was.
Well, yeah, you could watch you can watch. Streaming is great. You could watch The Lost Daughter on Netflix. You can watch Being the Ricardos, I believe, on Amazon Prime Video, or you could absolutely not watch The Tender Bar, which comes out Friday, January 7th. And do not see the Tender Bar. I give my full review on this week's Cinematics podcast. Now, Bruce, we're not talking about The Tender Bar. The Lost Daughter. Give 4 stars from Eric Holmes. Where do you land on this movie?
I really like this movie. I think this movie did for me what I think The Power of the Dog did for a lot of other people. Like both movies have a really hard to access story for a lot of people. Both movies have some very unlikable characters. I feel like this movie did a lot more into getting me into the world of the unlikable character. Whether I agreed with their reasons for being the way they were, I felt like I understood them better in this movie. What I really enjoyed, first of all, I think it's kind of a shame that Olivia Colman gets to be on the poster and Jesse Buckley doesn't, because I believe they're pretty much equally impressive in this movie and have about equal amount of, maybe not quite equal. Maybe it's like Olivia 60% and Jesse 40%.
Yeah, I think it's even closer, to half and half. I mean, yeah. But
I think to understand, so one of the things I really like about this movie is it has these incredible awkward situations, and it continues to show this Lita, Olivia Colman / Jesse Buckley's character, or Jeff Buckley. It continues to show that character in these really awkward situations where she continues to make choices that are like, they could be said as bad, they could be said as very wrong, they could be said as kind of asshole-ish. A perfect example, early on, you just don't know much about what's going on. She's just kind of enjoying her beach life. She's taking this summer vacation in Greece, and she's got her little spot on the beach, and she's laying out there enjoying it. And you're getting a little bit of reminiscence, but you're not really sure like what's going on yet in this story. And then in comes the swarm of this family, right? It's like the Housewives of New Jersey's family, like just comes into the beach and just starts knocking over chairs and taking over the whole beach. And she's kind of alone. Lita's character's off to the side, and they come over like, "Hey, we need your umbrella." She's like, "No." They're like, "Oh, come on. We'll do something else for you later, but we just need it for this. It's a special thing." She's like, "No, I'm not going to give you my umbrella." And that's like the first time, and you're like, "Okay, this character is a little different. She's a little antisocial. I don't quite see what she's doing." And she continues to make choices. We're not going to talk about it, but there's an inciting incident. There's something she does. She ends up with an object, And that object is an inciting incident and a crux of a lot of tension in this movie and tells you a whole lot about her character. And even within that, she does things with that object.
Was the missing object the script for the tender bar? Because I couldn't find it when I was watching the movie.
Yeah, maybe.
Sorry.
I'm guessing that the missing object was more interesting than the tender bar. I'm guessing.
It was.
There's a lot of great. I think there's a lot of great standalone scenes in here, and someone complained that she might be almost as big of a villain as Daniel Plainview.
Yeah. Yes.
And equally, I think she has some great moments in this movie. There's a moment in a theater where she's trying to watch a movie, and the whole time I'm like, oh God, no, just stop. It's so good.
Look, can we say
in the theater, I'm with her 100%.
No, right. But you also know, like, you're just like, okay, no, okay, oh no, now you're going, oh, you're gonna go talk to the manager. Oh shit, okay, let's just keep it going.
Okay, so that was Ken Cunningham's comment on Daniel Plainview and There Will Be Blood and Uncomfortable Character. There is a barrier of entry to The Lost Daughter. The barrier of entry is what you just said, that you, Bruce, and all three of us really enjoyed the uncomfortable situations. This is a character that is very unlikable. But it's not even that. Lita, she's not just unlikable. She is socially inept in so many ways that these uncomfortable scenes can make some viewers say, I'm checking out of this movie. This is just so uncomfortable and I don't like watching this. There is a sequence with her and Ed Harris's character. Ed Harris is the sort of the groundskeeper or the caretaker of the villa or the complex she's staying at. And I loved it, but some people will just say, I don't think The Lost Daughter is for me. Do you agree with that, Bruce, as far as just that ew factor, meaning, I don't know.
Yeah, this will be like nails in the chalkboard for some people, just terrible. I would say even more than socially inept, she's socially so passive-aggressive. Like
That's correct.
She does things overtly to make the situation worse, multiple times. Perfect example, I'm not going to say what it was, but the object. There's a point where the object is coming into play. She did not have to do what happens in that scene. And she chooses to do what happens in that scene. I can't say what it is, but I was like, holy fuck, what are you doing, lady?
I think there's times, though, that, like, for instance, she's sitting at her part in the beach, and they're like, can we move in on here? Like, I get that the nice thing to do is, oh, yes, let me move down. But in that situation, you shouldn't ask someone that. If someone's there just relaxing, you should say, oh, they're there. Let's move somewhere else. Like,
I agree.
Without even having to ask them.
I think this
there was another part with do you mind if I come in for a second? Yes, I do. Well, why would she say that? And it's like, well, first of all, there was that scene with the car earlier. So, obviously she feels threatened by some of the people there. A lot of the stuff that she doesn't want to engage in, I think is perfectly valid for her not to want to engage in. And the air quote polite thing to do would say, oh, just go with it. But
good point.
I don't think people should have to all the time. And I think it's incumbent on the other people. If you're going to force yourself into someone else's life like that, you should be respectful enough to say they could say no, and if they say no, that's fine, because without that, we end up with rape.
No, I agree.
I mean that's the extreme version of it, but
I think what you're saying is that I think it's kind of cooks the frog. This movie kind of cooks the frog. In other words, you see a scene like you're talking about that's kind of reasonable, but you also are getting the first impression of, like, this is a person that she's going to have a point where she says, no, I am not going to let you do what you want to do. But she also will do things, and once again, I'm not going to talk about the scene exactly. There's a scene where Ed Harris is talking to her to a point that she doesn't want him there anymore, and she basically says, I'd like to have my dinner now. And then she does something else after that she didn't have to do that is really odd.
That's very weird.
And really pushes it a different way. And I think that's the thing about her. She's reasonable until she's not reasonable. And I think that's what's really interesting about her character and understanding she's on this verge of, I don't know, I don't have a diagnosis for it. I can't say what her personality is exactly, but she's some kind of borderline personality.
I'm really curious what this book is like.
Oh yeah,
Because
very
as a character study, as a movie, I think it works. I can imagine as a book, this would be a really boring book to read.
It could be. Can we agree though that Maggie Gyllenhaal does an amazing job in this
Oh,
movie?
she's very good, very good.
Yes.
She also goes for very hard creative choices. Meaning, for
Yeah.
example, she doesn't. Okay, you're setting it in a beautiful area, so she doesn't have these long composed shots of Greece to cheat her way through the narrative. It's not. It's pretty. It's a pretty area, but she doesn't prettify the movie. A lot of the times, the movie is close-ups to from the waist up, and so you're pretty much locked into this very unlikable character for most of the narrative. It's very claustrophobic. Eric, you're talking about claustrophobia, and over in cinematics, you feel really hemmed in with this movie, and this movie is very tense, especially if you don't like the way a certain sequence is playing out. It really got me tense a lot of the times. Also, another great creative choice, which I think speaks to Eric's, I guess, main a little bit of a complaint for this movie, even though he gave it 4 stars regarding the ending not sticking the landing. Yes, I agree with you, but on the flip side to that, I'm just assuming Maggie's a very intelligent artist, and I think she just wanted to underplay the final moments of that and just throw it out there for us to just soak in. Bruce, what did you feel that the?
I think it does stick the landing. I think
Oh, okay.
I think it does stick the landing, but it's kind of like Pig. Like it's very subtle in how it sticks the landing, and either it doesn't work for you or it does. I want to say one other thing too.
Yeah.
I have two movies that are absolute perfect antidotes for each other. And if one is something you absolutely didn't like, the other one will give you what you want. And that is Bergman Island and this movie. They are the exact if you hate as far as characters go, I don't know, man. They're kind of the same and they're kind of very different. So
This one's
good.
very interesting, and Bergman Island goes on for 16 hours.
Oh, unbelievable. Okay, all right. Oh, okay. Again, this is a recap. Eric Holmes was not a big fan of Bergman Island, and Bruce and I absolutely adored the movie.
I will say that I think that this has a lot in common with Bergman Island, though. I think Bruce is onto something, though, because I did respond to this one a lot better. I think where this one works, where Bergman Island didn't for me, was this one had it had forward momentum going all the way through.
This one has stakes.
There was always a mystery of, like, I know there's something up with their kids. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure we're going to find out. And I think, and to that point, with the forward momentum, they kept me going through the movie. That's why it didn't stick the landing for me. Because I didn't get, it felt like, okay, we're going to tell you. It's a mystery. We're going to tell you. You kind of know, you pretty much know what happened. And then it gets to the end, and it doesn't, I feel like the ending wasn't as satisfying as I was led to believe that it might be, based on the forward momentum that it had throughout the movie.
Listeners, Eric Holmes is lying. There is a lot of forward momentum in Bergman Island. There are people, including the wonderful, lovely Vicky Creeps. They are walking and biking all throughout the island. There is forward progress. Bruce, can you back me up on this? There's biking and walking. There is a lot of biking and walking there, Eric. What the F are you? There might be a windmill shot as well. Doesn't windmills go forward?
Well, like with Bergman Island, at least what I got from it, Bergman Island was more, here's a group of characters and we're going to spend time with them.
That's fair,
fair. Where this one, there's a mystery. There's
Yes.
something that happened in her past, which is why they keep cutting back to not Jeff Buckley, Jesse
Jesse
Buckley.
Buckley, yes.
But it's why they kept cutting back to her character, which, if that's not clear, Jesse Buckley is Olivia Colman's character younger. But they keep peeling the onion, and they keep giving you a little bit of the past, and I just kind of went at the end. I wish they would have just opened it all up. Here's everything that happened. Hey, Eric. Hey, knucklehead. Here's what's going on, and then just held my hand and then just brought me through it. Because I feel like the story did a pretty good job of holding your hand and just kind of walking you through the story, and then at the end it's like, all right, you're on your own. It's like, but wait, oh man, okay.
There is a lot of stuff to unpack with The Lost Daughter. I felt that the ending really sealed the deal for me. It's very, very subtle. There's a lot of things you can analyze regarding why this Lita person does what she does. But if you look at, there's going to be objects like, there are going to be certain objects in this movie. I'm thinking of a honeycomb, and we're going to figure out why she does what she does. And by the end, it will, I think, it wrapped everything together, but in a very quiet and hushed way where I was a little bit devastated at the end. Like, oh my goodness. Were you knocked out with the ending, Bruce, a little bit? Just like, what the heck?
Yeah, I liked it quite a bit.
Okay, okay. So, anyways, you know what? We'll disagree on the ending, but Eric, you gave it 4 stars. Bruce, what do you give The Lost Daughter?
4.5 stars.
Well, 4.5 stars. I give it 4 stars as well. So Eric and I give The Lost Daughter 4 stars. Bruce Perky, strong recommendation for The Lost Daughter, now streaming on Netflix, 4.5 stars. Very strong recommendations from all three of us. Now, I apologize to Eric and Bruce because I'm only halfway done with this Arizona set film called Jockey. It stars Clifton Collins Jr. as the titular character. You know, if you've seen movies like Seabiscuit, if you were into that HBO miniseries or series Luck, or you like the horse racing circuit kind of thing, you might be interested in watching an indie film like Jockey. Okay, I'm halfway through it, and so far I'm really loving it. Clifton Collins Jr., he is a character actor. You've known, I mean, one of his best known roles is years ago in Traffic. He was very, very good in Traffic, but he is, over the years, carved out a very good solid career as a character actor. He gives so far, I can't review it, halfway through, an amazing performance in Jockey. I'm really loving it. I'm hoping it keeps the momentum. Bruce Perky, Jockey, did this movie resonate with you? Should people see this film?
It partly resonated with me. This was mildly resonating with me. We talked about in the last movie we just watched how, it's a lot of barriers to entry, but it had some real stakes, and there was it kind of pulled you forward. This one didn't pull me forward as much. It started to. There was some stuff with a young jockey shows up who may or may not have a relationship to him, and that's a whole mentorship kind of thing started building up, and that was kind of interesting. And the acting is really solid, but here's what I kept feeling as I watched this movie. First of all, it's shot a lot like it wants to be Nomadland. There's a lot of sunset and sunrise and
right.
and firelight and this close stuff.
And non-actors. There's a lot of non-actors in this movie as well.
It was really trying to go for that. And it for the most part, did it pretty well, but it didn't fully draw me in. And then the other part that kind of bothered me is that there's a movie called The Wrestler. And this seems a lot like The Wrestler. And it's not. It's very similar story to me, and it doesn't have Mickey Rourke, and it doesn't have the same director, and it doesn't have the just grab you by the collar and put you into the world the way The Wrestler did. This was much more quiet, and I guess that's what it's trying to do. I understand that, but it didn't really satisfy me. I wanted, give me some more. What are the stakes exactly? Tell me. I mean, I know you're trying to show me this world. I appreciated the fact that it de-glamorizes. There's no glamour at all in this world. These people are living a kind of a hard life, a dangerous life. But I never really felt it. Or the writer. That's another one. You talk about, talk about Chloe Zhao or Zha. The writer does something very similar to this, and it does it a lot better as well. So it felt a little derivative to those movies.
Okay, so this is directed and co-written by Clint Bentley. How many stars are you giving the Jockey?
I'll give it 3. I think there is a lot of good stuff here, and some people it's going to hit harder. So I can't say I don't recommend it, but it's a very mild recommend. It's not pushing very far over.
Okay, fair. 3 stars for you, Bruce, on Jockey. I can't give it a review as well right now because I'm only halfway through and I'm loving it so far. Hopefully it doesn't lose its momentum. Eric, where do you stand on Jockey? Do you agree with Bruce's 3-star assessment on this?
This feels like indie porn to me. The the story that's kind of whatever, definitely shades of The Wrestler or The Mustang or Sound of Metal, but it doesn't. It feels more like it's trying to be those movies. With Sound of Metal, for example, I got the sense that the filmmakers, they had an idea or they had a tone they wanted to set. All the decisions they made came from a place of here's what I want the audience to feel, and this is how we're going to do that. This one felt like, Sound of Metal was good. How did they make that? And then they went through the Sound of Metal checklist and then just did all the things in Sound of Metal, or did all the things in The Wrestler, or did all the things in The Mustang. And it kind of came off as cynical. I don't want to say cash grab because it's not a movie that would be, if you're going to do a cash grab, you don't do this type of movie. But you know what I'm talking about. It's like, oh, we're going to do that indie movie thing. and so we'll do a story about a jockey and do all the indie movie stuff that indie movies do. And this sucks to say because I love Clifton Collins Jr. He's great in everything. He was the best part of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and he was in it for 5 seconds, and he just sat on that horse brilliantly. And I love him as Tack. I love him in Super Troopers 2. I love him in 999. I love Clifton Collins Jr. in
Oh, he's great in
everything.
999. Love him in 999. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So to see, he's in this movie called Jockey, and he's the main guy. This is like, I should have been all over this. And I was, because I love watching Clifton Collins Jr. If this is cast with anyone else, I don't care about this movie. So that's kind of where I'm sitting on this. And God, this really sucks. I really want Clifton Collins Jr. to have a movie like this, but I want him to be in a movie like this that has a little more to say, that has a little more art to it. It's something that you do the indie score soundtrack, you do the indie, we're just going to let someone staring at a wall forever. We're going to listen to the kids screaming in the background for,
There you go, yeah.
But this one feels like a by the numbers indie for indie's sake, and I didn't like it. And I especially didn't like it because Clifton Collins Jr. deserves better than this. He's one of our greatest actors we have. Probably one of the most underrated actors. Hopefully he wins the Virginia Newcomb Award, but he's not that newish. He's been around for a while.
What would you give this?
For Clifton Collins Jr., I give it 3 stars, but the movie itself, probably 1.5 stars.
1.5 stars from Eric Holmes for Jockey and 3 stars for Bruce. Bruce gives it a mild recommend. Eric does not recommend this movie, but if you're a Clifton Collins Jr. fan, you might a mild recommend from Eric, but overall,
yeah, the Clifton Collins Jr. is what got me through this movie because I love him that much. But on one hand, I'm like, cool, I get to watch Clifton Collins Jr. for 2 hours. On the other hand, I'm kind of depressed. I'm like, come on, dude, he deserves better than this. It's just someone.
I so wish I finished this movie. I so wish I finished it.
Finish it and rewind it next week.
I need
more
Paul Thomas Anderson or Quentin Tarantino to have a movie starring. I need a director on that level to give Clifton Collins Jr. the movie he deserves.
Okay, so that is Jockey, and that is 3 stars from Bruce Berkey, 1.5 stars from Eric Holmes. Our final featured review this week is actually a movie rewind that Eric Holmes and I are doing because it is one of Bruce Berkey's favorite films of 2021. This movie is vicious fun, and it centers on this guy named Joel, and he's a horror film writer kind of dude. The movie's, I believe, set in the 1980s. He's really jonesing for his roommate, really cute roommate. She just went on a date with some dude who's a bit of a, pretty much of a D-bag, but he's an interesting D-bag, and that's, girls like bad guys, and he's a bad boy. So what happens one night is after the date, he's a little bit jealous. He decides to follow this bad boy into some kind of nondescript Chinese restaurant on the other side of town. He starts chatting him up. He starts drinking. He starts trying to show that dude that he's a man. He's a man's man. He ends up getting drunk and passing out. When he wakes up in the Chinese restaurant, he sees a bunch of just several individuals around a circle talking about stuff. And he's wondering, is it some kind of addiction group, AAA kind of situation? This Joel, this film writer, this film critic, whatever, he realizes it's not a triple AA and alcohol.
How much of an alcoholic are you? You go to AAA.
I go AAA with my car, and I was thinking of flat tires and whatnot. But no, this is not a self-help thing. It's in a way a self-help thing, but it's a self-help for people who are serial killers. So he's actually in a room with a whole bunch of serial killers. Each killer has his own way of killing. There's also a woman here named Carrie, played by Amber Goldfarb. She is also one of the killers, one of an actor that Bruce really loves, Julian Richings. He plays a guy named Fritz. He's another one of the killers. Really interesting movie. Again, Bruce will talk about why it's one of his favorite films of 2021. Vicious Fun is available for streaming currently on Shudder. Eric Holmes, your judgment on this movie. Was it worth your time?
Yeah, this was, I think Vicious Fun is a appropriate title for this one. This is not my favorite movie, but I had fun with it. Looking for Killers Anonymous. It was kind of a lesser version of that. Although I think the setup to this was a little better. The guy just kind of wandered into a den of assassins. Um, but I think Killers Anonymous does where the setup of this one is better. I think Killers Anonymous is a movie. I think is a lot funner and works a little better. But they're both kind of comparable. In fact, you do a double feature with this and Killers Anonymous, I think you'd have a pretty good night for the most part. Yeah, there's not much to say about it. It's just kind of a fun romp. Don't think too hard about it and have some fun with it. There's some silly parts. In fact, silly parts. The entire movie's silly.
Yeah.
So there's no silly parts. The movie is the silly parts, but And I think Andrew Martin really liked this one, and I kind of see why. And in fact, they probably should have cast Andrew Martin as the main character in this.
Right? He would be awesome in this movie.
Yeah, he'd be good. He would be good as a lead.
So when they do
remake.
when they do Vicious Fun 2,
Vicious Fun 2 again.
filmmakers, check out Andrew Watch's movies and cast him in the sequel because he would crush this role.
Yeah. How many stars do you give Vicious Fun, Eric?
This is probably a 3-star movie. I think for, depending on what your take is, I could see people will be like, oh, this is the greatest movie I've seen this year. And other people would watch this go, what the fuck is this shit? Like, not for me. But I think 3 stars is about fair.
Fair.
It's fun. It does what it does, and it does it well. And you can have a lot of fun with it.
So Vicious Fun. Saw this as well. Directed by Cody Callahan. Story by Cody Callahan. He's also one of the writers of Vicious Fun. Yeah, I've also seen Killers Anonymous. I really enjoyed that movie as well. Here's the thing where I disagree with you a little bit, slightly, because Killers Anonymous to me is a 4-star film. This movie to me is 4.5 because it's just, I saw this movie as a really cool comedy. It's really funny. It's a really funny movie. Evan Marsh plays the lead character, Joel. And Joel, I mean, I hate to mention this guy's name because obviously it's not a good name to mention in this time, in this climate, but he's sort of a younger version of Woody Allen. He's neurotic. He really likes it. He really likes a girl. He's very, very cool. And then he gets to meet this girl played by Amber Goldfarb. She's Carrie. She's attractive. She's steadfast, she's focused, but she's also a serial killer. So he spends most of the movie, he's essentially the Woody Allen-ish damsel in distress, trying to actually tag along with Carrie while they are ultimately trying to survive the night and actually ultimately tangle with the other serial killers in Vicious Fun. Also, another good thing about this is each of these characters in Vicious Fun, all the other killers are distinct personalities and they have an interesting way of killing as well. And each of them have a very funny way of, I can't say funny way of killing, but they have a funny way about them, even though they're cold-blooded friggin' killers. Another thing that's awesome is the policeman in the station. There's a policeman situation, which could be its entire other movie. There's 3 officers, I believe there's 3 officers in this movie. And usually sometimes in these type of movies, indie budget, the police officers would be just sort of requisite characters where they're just nothing. They're pretty much nothing characters. But each of these cops are well done. They're well acted, well written, and it's some really interesting interplay. The aforementioned D-bag I mentioned, I think he's played by Ari Millen. He plays Bob. He's hilarious. He's hilarious as an ultimate dick. I just found this to be very, very funny. It gets gross at times, but gross in a quote-unquote vicious fun way. I was absolutely swept away by Vicious Fun. I see why you loved it, Bruce. Bruce, you have the final say on why this is one of your favorite movies of the year.
Just pretty much the things you mentioned. I think that, and like any comedy, which is, I would say, predominantly comedy, it's kind of how it hits you. It is silly, but it's my kind of silly. I really enjoyed it. And I think this is also one of those expectation kind of movies too, right? Like I went in this going like, I don't know what this movie is and whatever. So it surprised me. So if someone tells you like, this is the greatest movie ever, I can see you also kind of being like, oh, it's fine, But it really just hit me in the right moment. And sometimes you just kind of need a movie like this to be an antidote to the heavy movies like we just been talking about, like The Lost Daughter or something like that. You're watching all these artistic movies, which we love. And then every so often you just need, if it's your flavor, this kind of movie that you can just put on and have a good time. But it's also pretty darn good at doing what it does. I think this is in that strange category as well that they don't do much of anymore, kind of like Fright Night in the 80s was one of these movies where you have these movies where it's like the character who's kind of a doofus, who's out of their element, who isn't up for the task, and they're faced with something way above their pay grade. And this is kind of one of those movies, and I enjoyed that as well. So,
Also, I think you mentioned this months ago in your Find Your Film. I haven't listened to that episode lately, but I think you mentioned about how it doesn't overstay its welcome. What I mean by this is, if it's set in the 80s, there's a couple of songs. I think there's a song that's specifically made for Vicious Fun. It's a cool 80s type song. But the director doesn't go to the well too much, meaning he doesn't slather the movie with 80s pop songs or an 80s synth score. He doesn't slather it with just an excessive dose of that kind of music. Or there's none of these go to the well nostalgic 80s moments that he puts on Vicious Fun. It's just a standalone story that happened to be set in that era, and he doesn't overdo it with the production designer of the music. And I thought that was really, I thought that was just really well done. So Vicious Fun, I highly recommend it. Eric Holmes, 3 stars, mild recommend. And again, Bruce Berkey.
I would say it's 3 stars, but that's like it's still a high recommend because it's not a 3 stars like not that great. It's like the 3 stars like this is right where it needs to be. Like it's not. It doesn't take it too big of a bite. It takes exactly the amount of bite that it needs to take.
And I think this is the kind of movie, if people are listening to us and it sounds like it's not their cup of tea, it won't be their cup of tea. Yeah. And if it sounds like it is their cup of tea, they'll probably be like, oh, that was cool. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think this is going to mislead anybody either. So
yeah, I guess all around, solid recommends for Vicious Fun. Again, one of Bruce's top 10. And that is our featured reviews for this week. We have some recommendations. Eric, let's lead off with you regarding your pick. You have a couple.
I forget. I don't have the
From the Depths. From the Depths. You have From the Depths or...
let's skip that one. Don't watch it. The movie sucks.
Don't watch it. That is a no recommend. Hey,
okay,
I like
that was easy.
You know what?
Okay, so let me just say this. From the Depths, I mentioned that I was watching my nephew Brandon on New Year's, and he loves shark movies, and why wouldn't he? He's a kid. And there was a movie called From the Depths with a shark on it, and we're watching it, and it's there's a shark in it, I guess, and there's this girl, and she's like her sister or friend died from a shark attack maybe, and she keeps seeing sharks like pop in, like she'll look up and the shark comes through the window, or a shark is comes through a puddle from the ground or whatever, and basically she's got the shark PTSD, and then her her dead friend comes back and starts talking to her, kind of similar to American Werewolf in London.
So it's on that level? Is that on that? It's as good?
No, not even close.
An American Shark Wolf in Pasadena.
Where did you see, Eric? Did you rent this? Did you see this on a streaming service? Do you remember?
We were just scrolling through different. I want to say probably HBO Max or maybe
I'll look
Amazon.
It up. Do you know what it got? Do you
No,
have
you
any
don't
idea
have to.
what
You don't have to look it up. You really don't.
I'm going to look it up right now because Eric, there's a site called IMDb. Did you see the ratings that it received?
I'm going to guess 3.2.
No, 2.4 out of 10.
Whoa.
What would you? Okay, so what would you rate this movie? I know people when you're a kid you want to see sharks, but you as an adult, Eric Holmes, what would you give From the Depths to our listeners?
I'll give this 2 stars.
2 stars. Wow.
I'd probably give it like half a star, but I'll give it 2 stars because it.
4 stars.
They kind of.
Are you gonna make me watch this movie so I can give it half star? Because I feel like giving this movie a half star right now.
No, don't. You would hate this, but I do appreciate that they tried something different. Okay. This is a case of I have this
biting
movie,
off more than you can chew.
Exactly. No, that's
you
exactly
are so mean. You are so mean, Bruce. You know what? They're gonna do something next time for the next film. They're gonna make that one good. So
this movie had some ambition to it.
Yeah.
And so I do appreciate that they tried something. They didn't have the budget. Okay. They literally just bit off more than they could chew. There's a version of this movie that's really good. They didn't make it, and I don't want to give the filmmakers too much crap about it because I think if they had a bit more budget, they could have taken the same premise and really done something cool with it. Okay. As it is, it just does not work.
Okay, so that is... Wow, Eric, you gave Jockey 1.5, and you are giving From the Depths 2 stars. That is amazing, Eric.
See,
I know. I'm kidding. I know what you're saying.
Jockey's working with an indie budget, but it's working with a budget. This thing's working with like $5 and some Starbucks coupons. Like this movie has like this movie
And a shark
has
puppet.
yeah. This movie just
That is fair.
They wanted to make a movie that's this big, and they have a budget for like something just a fraction of that size. And kudos for them for trying. It just doesn't work. And so I don't want to talk too much shit on it because I feel like it's not fair. But that's what it is. Brandon wanted to watch a shark movie, and this was what we saw.
So, listeners, eventually one of these days at your Dollar Tree store, From the Depths will be available for about $1.25. Just dig into that dollar bin store and just pick up that movie. Tell us what you think of From the Depths. The reason why I'm saying this is because I went to my local Dollar Tree store. By the way, did you guys know that Dollar Tree store DVDs now are $1.25? Did you guys know this? Do you have a Dollar Tree near you guys?
That sounds like a $1.25 tree to me.
It sounds like $1.25 just because we were used to, but I've been collecting a lot of DVDs and Blu-rays lately. So listeners, join our Cinematics Facebook group. I give away DVDs and Blu-rays every week. I have a new haul. I'm going to post it on our Facebook group, and should be some interesting movies out there. But again, who knows? Maybe one of these days, I think I might actually want to see From the Depths to see. Who knows? I'm talking all the smack. I haven't even seen this movie. I might actually like it. Eric Holmes, though, gives it...
Greg, to your point though, I mean, this could be one of those things where you see the movie and maybe you can see the potential of the movie, and maybe give it a pass on that. It's again, it's bad. The movie's bad, but there's a world in which this movie gets made, and it's not as bad as it is. And
What
I
they
think
need
that
is
has
a veteran shark writer that's seen better days, and it's a lot of like silhouettes and night shots.
That's funny. That's very, very funny, Bruce. You know what? One of these days we'll do a Find Your Film watch party. Jockey and From the Depths. We'll see how many.
Lord.
I'll do
Get out the Stella Artois. I'm ready.
That's what they did. If Clifton Collins Jr. was in From the Depths, this would be like a 4-star movie, because Clifton Collins Jr. would be like, "No, I'm playing producer on here. We're gonna get you more money, and we're gonna make this shit right."
Very, very cool. So I forget. Speaking of stars, Bruce, you give Vicious Fun. I'm making sure 4.5.
I don't remember. It's been a long time. I would say give it 4. I might be 4.5. Let's say 4.
4. Okay, 4 stars, 4.5 for me, and 3 for Eric. Okay, now, Bruce. Before we get to the box, Bruce and Eric, can you say a couple of nice words about Book of Boba Fett?
No, I cannot.
Because I looked at the trailer and I said, I've been waiting since 1985 for a series on Boba Fett. Here we are, some 36 years later. Eric Holmes, Bruce is giving the pass on what he wants to say about Book of Boba Fett. Do you have anything constructive to say about Book of Boba Fett?
Now I'm glad I did talk about From the Depths, because this was From the Depths is a movie where they had an idea. They were very ambitious, and it just didn't work. They didn't have the budget. They didn't have they had so much going against them. Disney doesn't have this problem. Disney has all the talent at their disposal. They have all the money at their disposal, and they have to stretch a half-hour story out into 18 episodes or however many episodes it's end up going to be. And look, I know I'm a MCU hater. And in fact, I know.
I mean, you've liked some MCU movies.
I do, but I think they're kind of full of themselves. Mitch Daly posted on Cinematics about how he's like, "Oh, I feel bad because I'm embarrassed because I have superhero movies," and so, which made me feel bad because I'm like, look, if that's your thing, that's your thing, and you should, if you love the MCU movies, you should love them. Who gives a fuck what I think? I'm just some dude. But at the same time, and I fucking love Star Wars. That's why I'm such a mark for these things. But unfortunately, Disney didn't know what the fuck they're doing with Star Wars. Actually, I take that back. They do know what they're doing. They're stretching their dollar as much as they can, even though they have unlimited funds. So, Book of Boba Fett is pretty much the same problem that The Mandalorian has, which is the same problem that the Bad Batch has. They have a half hour worth of story, and they have to stretch it out into like 8 episodes. Saw the first episode, and then I saw the second episode last night, and there's no story there. They're spreading this as thin as possible, and I think a lot of that has to do with I think Jon Favreau has the writing credits on at least the first two that I saw. The second episode was a little better, but not by much. Dave Filoni, I'm not a fan of Dave Filoni at all. I know a lot of Star Wars fans think he's the greatest thing since ever, and whatever, I don't get it. He knows what a who's a fat is. You know, he knows all the Star Wars nerd shit. But here's the thing: just because you know details about what you got some character in the background, just because you know their name doesn't mean you know how to tell a story. And Dave Filoni does not know how to tell a story. He knows how to do fan service. He knows how to tie things together, which seems to be the rule for Disney stuff with MCU and Star Wars. You got to tie it all together. It's like, tell a story. How about that? Tell a story. I heard someone mention that, I'm so glad that Star Wars finally, they're doing series because you can get into the characters more. And that would be a great argument if that's what they did, but they don't do that. They take a half-hour story and spread it out into 6 hours. That's not character development. That's called spinning your wheels. And I'm really disappointed with how they're treating Star Wars, but I'm not Disney. I don't make these decisions. And unlike From the Depths, they have unlimited funds and resources and talent, and this is what they choose to do, and I can say woof.
Well, you can say woof, but do
good.
you see Book of Boba Fett? You know, there's going to be a couple more episodes down the road. Do you see it getting better?
I mean, it has to eventually, but that doesn't excuse the fact that they're taking 8 episodes to tell a story that, I don't know, they've only come out with 2, blah, blah, blah. If it's anything like Mandalorian, that thing where Luke Skywalker shows up at the end, that should have been the end of the first season. I think I mentioned somewhere, someone was like, oh yeah, it gets really good in season 3. I'm like, yeah, are you gonna read my screenplay? It gets really good at page 130 on the 3rd screenplay. No, you're not. You're gonna read 10 pages saying, Eric, this is going nowhere. Let's pick it up. Unless I'm writing Star Wars, then for some reason it gets a pass, and I don't understand why. So Book of Boba Fett, half star, do better.
Wow, half star for Eric Holmes. And Bruce, you want to echo a little bit, even though you don't want to say too much about it? Do you echo?
Yeah, I won't say too much about it. I'll just say my biggest disappointment, and I pretty much agree with everything he says. I think there's a lot of really dumb stuff in the first episode that I watched. I mean, just doesn't make any sense within the world it's giving you. But the biggest problem I have, why do we have to tie everything back into the same characters we already know? I mean, why? You've got this giant universe that you've created, and you've got this budget, and why not expand the universe with new characters and new situations and new worlds and new creatures? And sure, there could be some relation to stuff we've seen before, but you could make a whole new story that would be interesting and would spark people's minds the way the original ones did. And you don't do it.
You know what sucks most about the Disney Star Wars stuff, and just Disney Marvel, just Disney in general, is public domain should be a thing. I get that Disney paid billions of dollars for the Star Wars property. I don't know how much they paid for Marvel. Probably less, since Marvel was in a predicament. There's some cool stories that can be told with these. There's cool comic books. There's cool movies. There's cool lots of things. Put this shit in public domain.
Well, and they're
vampires are in public domain. They have been for a while. And how many cool vampire stuff have we gotten? How many cool werewolf stuff? How many cool... probably not so much Peter Pan, but like there's stuff that's in public domain, and anyone can take it and do interesting things with it. But since Star Wars could be one of those things, I think it should be. Marvel, just comic books in general, like Superman should absolutely be in public domain by now. Batman should be in public domain by now. A lot of these comic book stuff should be in public domain by now, but are instead held captive by the Disney and the Warner Brothers, and they're doing fucking bullshit with them. So fuck them. I'm gonna talk shit on them.
Because it's just intensely safe. It's safe, and it's just that's what you're frustrated with, the safeness of it and how it's just lowest common denominator with the biggest possible budget, and they could do anything, and they're not even doing not even doing a little bit daring at all.
There should be like 100 different people doing Superman movies and doing 100 different versions and 100 different takes on that Superman character and expanding that character to almost to the point where Superman's not even recognizable. But, Superman becomes Frankenstein, or Superman becoms Wolfman, or,
And they've done those kind of things in the comic books.
Yeah, but they can't do that with movies because, there's the movie studios holding them captive, and they'll probably do it for hundreds of years. Yeah, just put this shit on public domain because Disney needs to know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah,
they got it right once with The Last Jedi, and then the fans started crying about it, and then they said, "Nope, we're staying safe. We're gonna be boring."
By the way, Disney, I love you. I love you guys, Disney. Keep on sending me the screening links. I'm a huge Disney proponent. I'm a streamliner and storyteller. Mr. Filoni, you're the man. I love you, man. I'm going to watch Book of Boba Fett, and next week for the rewind, I'm going to give it a forward 5-star review. So don't worry. That's always checks in the mail.
Let me also be because what I mentioned with Mitch Daly, there are people that disagree with me. There are people that eat these up. There are people that love these. There are people that would watch these things, and these are in their top movies or TV shows of the year, and you're not wrong.
Yep.
These are just things that I'm frustrated by. So I really felt bad about that. Mitch Daly feeling embarrassed about that because I have a problem with Disney and how they run things and how they're kind of a monolith. These things do work for a lot of people, and that's fine. You don't have to adjust your taste based on what we think. We're dudes.
Yeah, exactly. And
we're all dudes. Even the ladies are dudes. I'm a dude. Right. You're a dude. He's a dude. We're all dudes.
We're all dudes. Eric, thank you for your revolutionary take on public domain and your stance against Disney. Disney, by the way, I love you guys. I love monoliths. Just trickle some of that money down for me. I'm okay. Don't worry about Eric. Eric's for the common good. I want, I'm still with crypto. So shower some money down my way. I love Boba Fett. Book of Boba Fett. Bruce, where do you stand on this? Monoliths? Are you pro monolith?
I stand on yes. Shower your gold upon Greg. Give him that golden shower on.
That's very good. Thank you.
But not actual gold, cryptocurrency gold.
Cryptocurrency.
There
gold.
You go.
Which is cool. Cryptocurrency in this age, it's imaginary. So it's all imaginary anyway. So what's not imaginary? What's not imaginary is the sweet dulcet tones, instrumental tones of Peter Beta and Eric Holmes. What does Pete do every single week like a hard-working musician?
Yo, Pete, drop that beat.
Who's in the box? Oh, what's in the box? You lie! No! What's in the fucking box?
All right, wrapping up, we got the box movies, punk rock attitude with the golden shower reference from Bruce Berkey. What do you got for our pick, courtesy of Brian O'Connell this week?
Well, it was a revision. So if you listened last week, I was going to be doing at least Alaska Nets that was suggested by Brian O'Connell.
Yeah.
Well, we can only find the main nets.
Well, lo and behold, Alaskan Nets is not available yet. I actually reached out to the filmmakers because they've been posting stuff online, and what they're doing is they're touring it. It's a documentary. They're touring it around schools, and they are going to have it available. I think it's in March or February, something like that. So I'm going to keep an eye on them and talk to them, and when it becomes available for screening, we're going to screen that. Who knows, even more maybe. I will tell you, Alaskan Nets sounds interesting. It's about this community of indigenous Alaskan group there and how they have a strong tie to fishing nets and basketball. And there's some kind of a quote there's a quote, this is really amazing, in the trailer, and I'm paraphrasing totally off the top of my head, but it says something like, everyone is expected to be at the high school basketball game every week unless someone in your family member died a couple hours ago. And that's like how strong they take it.
Unbelievable.
There has to be a death within like the last few hours. Otherwise, you have no excuse not being at the game. So I'm really curious about that movie. Anyway, I said, okay, Brian O'Connell, I don't have a movie to watch. What am I going to watch? He suggested Los Punks, LOS Punks. We Are All We Have from 2016. You can get this. You can rent it. It's on Canopy. It's around. You can find it pretty easily. Directed by Angela Boatwright. This is This is a great documentary. If you like documentaries like the Decline of Western Civilization series, if you ever watched any of those movies, which one of them was punk in the early 80s, and then one of them was metal in the mid 80s, if I remember correctly. And then they did a later one, like in the late 90s, right around the turn of the century, and that was all about punks that were kind of like street punks and kind of that lifestyle. This is all about the backyard punk scene, Lost Punks, in South Central and East LA, especially in the fairly recent, like within the mid to late teens. And it follows a bunch of people within that community and how it's really interesting, like how you have this very, it's a very poor community. It's a lot of crime. There's lots of gang violence. There's all this stuff going on. And a lot of people are finding their identity and a positive outlet in this hardcore punk scene. And a lot of it is about just kind of creating these backyard venues. So it'll be like Saturday night, we're going to have a concert in this person's backyard, literally in someone's backyard. And it follows the people who organize it and the people who play at it, different bands, different fans. And it's really interesting and really fun and really good. Just kind of.
Do you get to know the people? Like, does it center on? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it centers on the people a lot, and it also gives you a good picture of what the concerts are like and what the scene is like and what the music's like. And for me, I really got that feel of anyone who's been in that kind of independent underground music scene. I know Eric's had some experience there too. It really attracts like misfits, people that are outside of the norms of society, and you feel that kind of and it's not all good. There's bad everywhere, but it's like an escape. It's like you're finding people that are also, you're going to find some oddballs that are your kind of oddballs. And you're going to find, some meaning within this kind of crazy bullshit plastic world. And that's what you see in this. And it's good to see that it's still out there. It's also kind of crazy for me because I'm watching these people that are, 40 years younger than me. They're wearing, a Battalion of Saints jacket, which is a band from around the time I was around there. And one of them's talking about how their life turned around when they heard Discharge, which is this early 80s British punk band. I'm like, that's crazy. It's I guess the punk version of people hearing the Beatles, and still being inspired. So it's really a lot of fun, especially if you have interest in that scene. It's and it's short. It's like under 90 minutes. So it's pretty fast.
Okay, cool. So rating 3.5 for you?
I give it 4 stars. This is definitely if it's in your flavor, right? Once again, this isn't definitely not going to be for everybody. But if you already kind of are into underground music, punk, metal, underground metal, or alternative weird music, you're going to probably find a lot of value here.
Okay, so again, that's Los Punks. We are all we have. That's part of Bruce Berkey's What's in the Box choice. Thank you, Brian O'Connell, for your pick. If you want to actually read more about this documentary after watching it, you can. I was just looking at this right now. Angela Boatwright has her own website. It's angelaboatwright.com, so you can see more pictures. Now, I'm thinking not from the documentary, but from some of the scenes that she has shot. And you see a lot of these youths playing a punk show and with guitars, and they're all tatted up and they're all bonding. So it's good. Yeah. Actually, I'm kind of interested to see this documentary myself.
And my last little comment about it is, unlike like Decline of Western Civilization or something where it's like, the Germs and all these like, seminal punk bands. Unlike that, in this, you could look up the band or the people that are in here, and most of them are still doing it because this is just a few years ago. So this is way more like, pertinent as far as like actual reality to see that like, oh, wow, you could literally go see them this weekend. One of these bands playing in someone's yard. So
that sounds pretty cool, actually. That is very, very, that's a great choice, actually, from Brian O'Connell. Eric, you have anything to say about Los Punks? Is that something you might want to see down the road? You watch so many movies every week.
Perhaps. Was this the one that you were in, Bruce? Or was that something else?
Oh, no, that was... You're talking about the thing I posted last week? No, that's a Melvin's documentary. There's like a half-second shot of me and my brother standing watching the Melvins in like 1984 or something.
You hear that, Greg? We got a movie star on our podcast.
Movie star Bruce Berkey in that Melvins documentary. And
if you blink, you will miss it. Literally.
Don't you have an interview on Rustomeyer on your YouTube channel with who knows who on your channel, Bruce?
Yeah, with Melvins. Yeah, I have an interview with them, backstage interview with those guys.
Okay.
From
So you can check.
2012 or something. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. You can check that out on Bruce Berkey's YouTube channel, Rustomeyer. Bruce is so busy. He's doing the Find Your Film. He's doing so much stuff. He hasn't had time to actually do stuff on his YouTube channel. When are you gonna get back to it? Do you ever have any time to do it?
I don't know. Whenever I get inspired. Maybe if the pandemic puts me in the house for another 3 months straight, I'll go back to doing it.
Hopefully.
The Find Your Film monolith, it ripped them away from Rustomeyer.
Did pulled me
Yes.
away. He drew me back in like a gangsters.
How much of a hypocrite am I? Just talking shit on Disney.
Oh look! I just got a post. I just got an email from Disney there because we've been so nice to the show and they've been sending us screening links. They're gonna send me and Bruce Perky a "It's a Small World" wonderful cake sent to both of us, and no cake for you, Eric Holmes. No cake. They're sending us cake and money. You want cake and money, Bruce? And none for Eric?
I don't like cake, so this works out perfectly.
Wait a second. Hold on. All kidding aside, you're not a cake person?
No, I can't really do sweets. It messes my guts up.
Oh,
So like cake, chocolate, like all that.
Like pie? Do you like pie?
I can do the fruit. If you put too much sugar in it, it just messes me up.
Well, you know what? I can do sweets. I can do everything, but I can't do love because you know why? Why, Eric? Because
I can't even talk.
because it messes Greg's Asian guts up. Bruce Berkey, any final thoughts before? Oh, wait. I always do this every single week. What's in the box? What's in the bleeping box?
So, this is the first time in the box are the normal submissions, which I want you to keep sending me. Send me your ideas of a movie that should go in the box with your name. Also have 3 names in the box.
Oh, very cool. By the way, you're sending Bruce Perky some movie recommendations for what's in the box. Go email bruceperky@gmail.com or Cinemax Facebook group members. Just again, it's submissions, not emissions. Yes,
and if
Bruce,
you want to
for
go
it.
into the basement of my shop, Zed's, and be in the box yourself, then you can give me your name. And so far, William Lindis, Peter Beta,
Oh, very cool.
and Joseph Bridges are
very-
actually in the box. And then I've been adding movies to the box as well. Just things that I come up and I think about it like, oh, shoot, I need to see that. So I add it to the box. So what am I picking up?
And also, real quick, speaking of box, if you have any Steven Spielberg gems like The Terminal, and you want to send them to care of Anderson Cowan at P.O. Box 570058, Tarzana, California. 91357.
Send him
Or
Warhorse.
Warhorse. He would gladly accept all of that. The BFG, I believe, was one of his favorite movies.
Ready Player One. One.
Send them all to him.
This box movie is not from anybody. This is one that I just saw come up this week. People were talking about it, and I said, I haven't seen that movie, so I'm going to put it in the box. From 2016, Other People, directed by Chris Kelly.
Yes, Other People, starring Jesse Plemons, and I believe I forgot the other person's name right now off the top of my head, but it's a very, very interesting movie. Molly Shannon. There you go.
Yeah.
Molly Shannon.
Oh, someone posted that. I saw that. I was going to check that one out.
I put it in the
very-
box.
Hard-hitting
All right.
movie, Jesse
Well, there it
Plemons.
is.
So I literally filled a page of suggestions, cut them out, and put them in the box. I'm going to do that every week. This thing's going to be full. So your name getting picked out is pretty rare. So you better
Yes.
get your name in there if you want to be part of the box.
Yes, I have this just recurring nightmare that whoever puts their name on the box, like if it's a William Lindis or Peter Beta or Joseph Bridges or maybe someone like a Jeff Basson or whatnot, they'll pick your name out of the box. They'll come in and you guys are gonna go, we like you, Greg, you're off the show. You're out. We're gonna put Jeff Basson in the Greg Srizavasi spot. What do you think? So that
that
I
how
mean,
it
as long as they don't look up, that'll weigh things in my favor with that. So I'm cool with it.
Very, very. Again, don't look up. This is the gift that, in my opinion, keeps on giving. Tell us what you think of this movie, good or bad. It's all good. Like Eric Holmes has been saying all episode. Really, no one's right, no one's wrong. Everyone has opinions. Very, very cool. Yeah. Eric, you wanted to say something.
I was going to say, clearly you hate the movie, but we're going to milk this bit for all it's worth.
We're gonna milk the Don't Look Up bit for all. You know what, listeners, I want to say this. Please join us on our Cinematics Facebook group because look, I'm not gonna say Bruce is a lowbrow humor. He doesn't do this. And Eric Combs, he doesn't go for some cheap jokes. I received a really
69. Ever heard
no,
me say it?
true. But again, it's a joke that still works all the time. Yeah. I got a nice present from Netflix. Netflix is always good to us, by the way. Peeking behind the curtain, they send us screening links. They're wonderful. We love them. Whether we not some movies of theirs we don't love, but some of them we love. Okay, but they sent me a nice, wonderful Don't Look Up Christmas card, say like season's greetings, and it's supposed to open up. There's supposed to be some Don't Look Up music. I open the thing up and no music comes in. I should be the better person like Eric Holmes, like he was with From the Depths, and just, gently throw it away and recycle it and not mention anything. But no, lo and behold, I put it up, posted the embarrassing faux pas with that card onto the thing and saying this card was defective as the movie. Yes, Eric Holmes. That's low class of me. I hate myself for it. Yes, sir.
I could be wrong, but it seems that the Netflix movies that we get screeners for, at least you guys tend to hate them. But the Netflix movies we watch on our own are the ones we like. Pretty much all of us tend to seem to like.
Oh yeah, interesting.
Or maybe because today it's the Lost Daughter.
Right.
That's Netflix. We all liked it.
We all loved it.
It wasn't something we got a screener for. It was just something we all just happened to watch.
Oh right, interesting.
I'd have to go back and check the numbers on that, but
yeah,
maybe Netflix would be like, you watch that shit on your own because every time we send you a screener.
Eric, are you saying?
Except for Eric. Eric likes them. You can send all the Disney shit to Greg. I don't give a fuck. Netflix, you send all the shit to me. I will. Hold the Dark. Being the Ricardos, Don't Look Up. I love all that shit. Tick Tick Boom. Oh no, Tick Tick Boom. I think we like. Bruce not as much, but I think we like. Tick,
you and I both really enjoyed it. But no, I get your point. You have a good, valid opinion. Absolutely, Bruce does not care regarding Netflix. I mean, he cares about Netflix, but you can get the Netflix stuff. I'll get the Disney stuff. Bruce, what stuff do you want?
The Trip came from Netflix.
All right, the Trip.
There you go.
Yeah, the Trip was another really cool thing.
They just don't know what they've got. They just don't know what to tell us is good.
But by the way, folks, again, one more thing before Happy New Year. We have a bunch of goals for Find Your Film. One of our goals eventually is to cover more Shudder films because Bruce, that was a ball that you started running with that I think for some inadvertent purpose. I keep getting the screener links and I don't open the emails. We need to cover more Shudder stuff. And whatever you guys want us to cover as far as streaming services, hit us up. Tell us what you think we should be doing. More coverages of. I'm going to stop talking because we're going to finish the night, finish this recording with some final thoughts from Bruce Berkey.
Well, I didn't prepare anything tonight, so I'm just going to look to my left and read off of a poster. His evil brains glow in the dark after exposure to light. Press the back of the head on the bottom, his mouth opens, and the gruesome teeth move forward.
Okay, on that romantic thought, that is scary. We will see you next week on Find Your Film. Thank you, Bruce, for that lovely, decrepit, grotesque final finale. I don't know what
That's
to
me.
say.
Lovely, decrepit, and grotesque.
Okay, see you guys next week.